Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am just Mike. You are watching and you are listening to episode 15 of the Rock On Wild Show. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below this video to get every single video that comes up and also the notification bell that's just right beside it. You can also like this video and share this video to everyone that you know and spread the word about the Rock On Wild show. So previously on episode 14, I ranked every single WrestleMania from the worst to the best, but it's going to be in two parts. Last week I done WrestleManias from number 40 to number 21. On this episode, you are all going to get the second half of that ranking. That is from number 20 to number 1. What is my favorite WrestleMania of all time? Well, stay tuned because that will be the main event for this episode. To get things started, since I still have, God forbid, actually some light still left, I am going to react to an old movie review of mine, a movie review for a movie called Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson. So I am going to get this set up. And I will present, share screen, Lucy movie review. Make sure the audio is on. Perfect. All right. And let's react to this review in 3, 2, 1, action.
You know what I'm doing right now? I'm accessing 100% of my brain. I know what you're thinking. I can control your thoughts. I know your memories. I know all your phone numbers. I know all your PC information. I can get inside all your computers. I can read all your text messages and who you called yesterday and the day before and the day before that. I can turn on your TV. I can turn off your TV. I can turn on your radio. Who am I kidding? Hey, what is up, all movie fans in the movieverse? Welcome to the Mike McRock Movie Review YouTube channel. And right now I'm going to talk about a movie called...
I'm sorry to pause this just for a moment. I absolutely love that intro. At least when I done intros that long ago, I was a little bit creative.
Lucy. And Lucy is about a woman who accidentally gets caught up in a dark deal, and then she turns the tables on her captors and transforms into a merciless warrior evolved beyond human logic. And basically what happens is that Lucy, who's played by Scarlett Johansson, takes drugs, which transforms her into this super warrior ninja, whatever you want to call it. And throughout the entire movie, they go through stages like, they start off at 0% and then they go to 10%, 20%, 50%, 75, up onto 100. And the lead up to it could have been a lot better than it was. I think what really hurt this movie is that once she realized that she could do different stuff, I would have liked to see her be surprised of what she could do instead of actually just doing it and not being surprised by it. So to me, that really hurt the evolution of the main character.
To be fair, Scarlett Johansson is playing a robot. I'm assuming, I forget most of this movie, but I'm assuming that Scarlett actually plays a robot in this. I'll play.
And for a movie with a smart woman who accesses 100% of their brain, there were a lot of dumb things in this movie. I won't dive right into it just for spoilers' sake, in case you go see this movie, but there are a lot of dumb and stupid stuff that happens. But I will applaud this movie for doing something really different and going against the grain here. And it's something a lot of movies really don't do enough of, and that is the whole metaphor gimmick. What I really like that this movie had the balls to do is use National Geographic the clips of tigers going after the deer, the whole bait thing, the whole mouse about to get caught in the mouse trap with the cheese on it. I like how they played the whole metaphor thing throughout this movie,
Nice
but
and
not,
cheese.
but only for the first 20 minutes of it. I guess they decided to, enough is enough, so let's just drop it. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more of that. I really don't know why, but I like the idea of the whole psychology of this movie and what they were doing throughout. And this was one of those movies where you just go see it just to see the cool stuff and not to see a movie with a good plot or good character development, because there wasn't any character development in this movie at all. And you also
Hmm,
had this one guy who's a
unfortunately.
French guy, is a cop guy, and he said something really smart. I thought in this one line he says, "Well, you don't need me anymore," and I was like, "Yeah, he is definitely right on that." So he was an okay
Hmm.
supporting role in this movie. I just found that there are a lot of things in this movie that just don't happen. This is one of those suspend your disbelief. I like the cool images while she was accessing her brain, the whole pew 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 wiretapping and pulling this out and all that stuff. That was really cool to watch. So it done the whole visual aspect actually quite well. And what I like about this movie is that even though they had the whole visual thing working for them,
I'm gonna pass this to again. I tend to think most sci-fi movies do really good visuals. I mean, see The Matrix from '99, right?
they also had really good action scenes in this movie, and it wasn't all shaky cam, like, the whole shaky cam thing I always nitpick about. But I like how the action scenes actually flow very well. The car chase scenes, the gun fighting, even though I question why she's using guns while she's actually accessing her brain, she could do different things.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Sure.
something like that is an example of how dumb this movie was. So, this was one of those movies where you just sit back, throw the popcorn on, and enjoy something that involves really cool stuff.
Really cool
So, out
stuff.
of 100, I would give this movie 61 points.
Not bad points.
And if you
Not
saw this movie, what did you think about it? Feel free to chime in, comment below. Tell me, what did you think about Lucy? And with that said, you can also hit that subscribe button down below this video to get McRocked.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my thing on the movie Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson. I don't remember much about that movie at all. I just remember Scarlett Johansson was really cool. The movie was really cool. It's sci-fi. I remember it not being great. I remember it not being horrendous, just like middle of the road, average at best. 61, yeah, that seems like a decent score that I would give it. That's a movie I wouldn't mind watching again, actually, just to get a refresher. So, with that done, I am going to get on to the meat of this episode. Before we get to the main event, as I rank all 40 WrestleManias, which will be my own only wrestling topic, I'm going to skip on this day in wrestling for April 9th, 2025, just to do this ranking. So I'm going to put in something new, something a little bit different for on this day, and I'm going to talk about what happened on this day in sports. So let's present share screen and let's look at what happened in sports history for April 9th. And we're going to date back all the way to 1880. British Open men's golf. Musselburgh links Scotsman Bob Ferguson wins first of three straight titles, beats Peter Paxton by 5 strokes. In 1896, on April 9th, Australian athlete Edwin Flack claims the middle distance double at the Athens Olympics, winning the 800-meter final in 2:11.0, his second victory of the games after success in the 1500 meters. And there is Olympic runner Teddy Flack right there. In 1896, Greek shooter Pantelis Kareviadas. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. This person scored a perfect 40 hits to win the military rifle event at the Athens Olympics, Greek 1-2-3, with Palvadis, and Nicholas Trikoups taking out the minor placings. In 1912, first exhibition baseball game at Fenway Park was the Red Sox versus Harvard. In 1913, Brooklyn Superbass, later Dodgers, Ebbets Field opens, visiting Philadelphia Phillies, wins 1-0. In 1925, at the height of its fame, Babe Ruth rushed to the hospital with a mysterious condition labeled the bellyache, heard around the world. Ruth reported dead by some newspapers. In 1928, Top Oz soccer team forms in Oz. In 1931, Stanley Cup Final Game 3, Chicago Blackhawks defeating Montreal Canadiens 3-2. Canadiens eventually win in best of 5 series. In 1932, Stanley Cup Final, Maple Leaf Gardens, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Toronto Maple Leafs beat New York Rangers 6-4 for a 3-0 series sweep. Toronto's first SC at the Maple Leafs. In 1935, Stanley Cup Final, Montreal form, Montreal, Quebec. Montreal Maroons beat Toronto Maple Leafs 4-1 for a 3-0 series sweep. Maroons last defunct team to win the cup. There's 2 here in 1941. The LPGA Title Holders Championship Women's Golf. Augusta Cece Dorothy Kirby wins comfortably by 16 strokes ahead of Helen Siegel. Also in 1941, PGA establishes Golf Hall of Fame. In 1945, NFL requires players to wear long stockings. In 1946, Stanley Cup Final, Montreal form, Montreal, Quebec. Montreal Canadiens beat Boston Bruins 6-3 for a 4-1 series victory. In 1947, baseball commissioner Happy Chandler suspends Brooklyn Dodger Leo Durocher for 1 year for association with known gamblers. In 1950, 14th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, Jimmy Demaret becomes the first 3-time Masters champion by 2 strokes ahead of Australian Jim Furyk. In 1959, 13th NBA championship, Boston Celtics sweep Minnesota Lakers in 4 games, first of Boston Celtics record 8 straight titles. In 1959, Baltimore Orioles put their second triple play 3-6-3 versus Washington Senators. In 1959, Bill Sherman hits an NBA record of 56 consecutive foul shot. In 1960, 14th NBA championship, Boston Celtics beats the St. Louis Hawks 4-3. In 1962, 26th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, Arnold Palmer wins the third of his 4 Masters titles in an 18-hole Monday playoff with Gary Player and Dow Finsterwalt. Dow Finsterwalt's tournament's first 3-way playoff. In 1965, first baseball game at Houston Astrodome, Astros beat New York Yankees 2-1 in exhibition as Mickey Mantle hits MLB's first indoor home run. U.S. President Lyndon Johnson and wife Lady Bird attend. In 1966, Anaheim Stadium for California Angels opens. In 1967, 31st U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, Gabe Brewer wins his only major title by 1 stroke over runner-up Bobby Nicholas. In 1968, Min's Wayne Connolly is first to score on a Stanley Cup penalty shot. That is really cool. In 1969, Chicago Billy Williams hits 4 consecutive doubles, beats Phillies 11-3. In 1972, 36 U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, Jack Nicklaus leads wire to wire to win the 4th of his 6 Masters titles, 3 strokes ahead of Bruce Crampton, Tom Wickersham, and Bobby Mitchell. In 1972, New Zealand cricket opening batsman Glenn Turner 259 and Terry Jarvis 187 make 387 partnership in 4th Test versus WI in Georgetown, Guyana. In 1973, 37th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, due to weather delays, final round is played on Monday with Tommy Aaron winning his only major title, 1 stroke ahead of J.C. Snead. Also in sports history, in 1974, San Diego Padres owner Ray Kroc addresses fans, "Ladies and gentlemen, I suffer with you. I've never seen such stupid baseball playing in my life." Awesome quote right there. Freaking awesome quote. U.S. Masters Golf in 1978, 42nd U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC. 42-year-old Gary Player shoots a record-tying final round of 64 -8 to win by 1 stroke from Rod Funseth, Tom Watson, and Hubert Green. In 1978, Brewers sweep Orioles 11-3, 6-3, and 13-5, each with a grand slam. In 1978, in separate NBA games, Denver's David Thompson scores 73 points, and San Antonio's George Gervin scores 63 points, 33 in 1 quarter. In 1980, Los Angeles Kings tie NHL record with 2 shorthanded playoff goals versus New York Islanders. In 1981, Los Angeles Dodgers, Fernando Valenzuela, makes MLB debut as opening day starter due to pitching staff injuries, beating Astros 2-0, goes on to win both Rookie of the Year and Cy Young awards. In 1982, LA Lakers blocked 21 different shots, setting NBA regulation game record. In 1983, 137th Grand National. Ben Dehan wins abroad 13-1. Bet Colbert, Jenny Pittman, first female GN winning trainer. In 1985, White Sox pitcher Tom Seaver starts a record 15th opening day game. In 1987, for a 3rd time, Wayne Gretzky scores 7 points, 1 goal, 6 assists in a Stanley Cup game, and passes Jean Villeneuve as all-time playoff scoring champ. Or Bellevue. Jean Bellevue. Write that one down. In 1988, 142nd Grand National Irish jockey Brendan Powell wins abroad 10-1 shot, rhyme and reason by 4 lengths from Durham Edition. In 1988, NHL New Jersey Devils win 3-0 over New York Islanders. Devils lead 2-1 in playoff first round. In April 9th, 1989, 53rd U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National GC, Englishman Nick Faldo wins the first of his 3 master titles after a final round of 65 -7 and a birdie on the second hole of a sudden death playoff with Scott Hodge. In 1989, oh boy, look at this. Now that's a face right there. Mike Tyson strikes a parking attendant when asked to move his car. You heard that correctly. Mike Tyson strikes a parking attendant when asked to move his car. What in the... That's Mike Tyson for you, ladies and gentlemen. Also in 1989, MLB New York Yankees outfielder Ricky Henderson steals its 800th career base in 4-3 loss to Cleveland Indians. In 1990, Don McGinley signs a $19.7 million 5-year contract extension with the New York Yankees. In 1990, New York Islanders beat New York Rangers 4-3. In double overtime, Rangers lead 2-1. In 1992, Florida drops rape charges against New York Mets Gooden, Boston, and Coleman. Also in 92, record 18 golfers shoot in 60s in Masters round 1, old record 12. In 1993, Colorado Rockies' first home game and first victory 11-4 over Montreal Expos. In 1994, 147th Grand National, jockey Richard Dunwoody wins his second GN abroad Irish 16-1 shot Minahoma by 1 1/4 lengths from Just So. U.S. Masters Golf in 1995, 59th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National, GC. Ben Crenshaw wins his second Masters title, 1 stroke ahead of runner-up Davis Love III. In 1997, Cleveland Indians pitcher Joe Missa is acquitted of rape charges. In 1997, Major League Soccer announces Miami and Chicago expansion. Also in 97, NFL announces it will give $3 million to CFL and possible world-class bowl. In the year 2000, 64th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National, GC, Fijian Vay Singh wins by 3 strokes from Ernie Els of South Africa, Vijay Singh. That's right, Vijay Singh. Write that one down. 2005, 158th Grand National, 9-year-old 7-1 favorite Hedge Hunter ridden by Ruby Walsh and trained by Willie Mullins win by 14 lengths from 40-1 shot Royal Eclair. In 2006, 70th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National, Phil Mickelson wins his second green jacket by 2 shots from South African Tim Clark. In the year 2011, 164th Grand National, Jason McGuire wins abroad Irish 14-1 shot. Bella Briggs' first GN win for trainer Donald McCain Jr., son of 4-time winning trainer Ginger McCain. In 2013, 32nd NCAA Women's Basketball Championship, Connecticut beats Louisville 93-60. Huskies' 8th national title. In 2014, Joel Embiid declares for the 2014 NBA Draft, foregoing his final 3 years of college eligibility. In 2016, 169th Grand National, David Mullins, victorious abroad 33-1, Rule the World, wins by 6 lengths from race favorite The Last Samurai. In 2017, 81st U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National, GC, Spaniard Sergio Garcia beats Justin Rose of England in a sudden death playoff after they completed 72 holes at -9, Garcia's first major title in his 74th attempt. And we got a few more here. In 2021, San Diego Padres pitcher Joe Musgrove, no hits. the Texas Rangers 3-0 at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. In 2022, Joel Embiid is named the NBA scoring champion, averaging 30.6 points per game. In 2023, 87th U.S. Masters Tournament, Augusta National. John Ram becomes fourth Spaniard to win the tournament, finishes on -12 to beat Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka by 4 strokes. Write that one down. In 2023, Joel Embiid is named the NBA scoring champion for the second straight season, averaging 33.1 points per game. Also in 2023, Kawhi Leonard leads the Los Angeles Clippers to win over the Phoenix Suns, securing the 5th seed in Western Conference playoff brackets. And I can't believe I went through all of those things that happened on this day in sports. Holy crap. What a mouthful of events that happened on April 9th in sports. Let's get on to, hopefully, when it's not so much. Let's have a bit of a balance here, shall we? Let's get into what happened on this day on April 9th in film and television history. Starting off here in 1928, Mae West's New York City debut in a daring new play, Diamond Lil. In 1950, Bob Hope's first television appearance. In 1954, 7th Cannes Film Festival, Gate of Hell, directed by Tensuke Kingugasa, correct me if I'm wrong, wins the Grand Prix du Festival International du Film. In 1954, WECT TV Channel 6 in Wilmington, North Carolina. NBC CBS begins broadcasting. In 1962, 34th Annual Academy Awards, West Side Story, Best Picture, Director, and 8 more. Sophia Loren, 2 Women, and Maximilian Schell, Judgment at Nuremberg win. In 1967, shortwave broadcaster Radio New York worldwide transmitter burns down. Yikes. In 1971, Ringo Starr releases single It Don't Come Easy, produced by George Harrison in the UK. In 1973, Paper Moon film starring Ryan O'Neal and his daughter Tatum O'Neal, directed by Peter Bogdanovich, premiered in Hollywood, California. Tatum O'Neal becomes the youngest, age 10, Academy Award winner, supporting actress. In 1976, All the President's Men, directed by Alan J. Pakula, based on the nonfiction book by journalists Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, detailing the Watergate investigation, starring Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, is released. That's an interesting thing I wouldn't mind getting into, by the way. In 1979, 51st Academy Awards, The Deer Hunter, Jon Voight and Jane Fonda win. In 1984, 56th Academy Awards, Terms of Endearment, Robert Duvall and Shirley MacLaine win. In 1984, 56th Academy Awards, Linda Hunt becomes the first person to win an Oscar for portraying the character of the opposite sex, Billy Kwan, in The Year of Living Dangerously, in 1982. In 1986, the year I was born, TV show Dallas announces it will revive killed Bobby the Wig character. Actor Larry Hagman. In 1990, Capital News starring Lloyd Bridges premiered on ABC TV. In 1994, Rock for the Rainforest benefit concert held at Carnegie Hall, New York City. Performers include Sting, Elton John, James Taylor, Whitney Houston, Luciano Pavarotti, Aaron Neville, Tammy Wynette, Brentford Marcellus, and Larry Adler. I don't know most of them at all. I know Elton John, James Taylor, and Whitney Houston and Sting. That's about it. In 1995, Brian Friel's stage drama translation starring Brian Dennehy closes at Plymouth Theatre, New York City, after 25 performances. In the year 2000, 53rd British Academy Film Awards, American Beauty, Best Film, Pedro Almodovar, Best Director. In 2009, mockumentary Parks and Recreation, starring Amy Poehler, Nick Offerman, and Aziz Ansari, debuts on NBC in the US. And of course, from Parks and Rec, we all know actor Chris Pratt, who is mainly known for playing Quill in the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, just to add a little bit of extra. And that's everything that happened on this day in film and television history. Now let's look at what happened on this day in music. And I totally forgot to share the screen where I went over on this day in film and television, but that's all right. You heard it from me here. So I'm going to share screen this part of the episode where I go over the stuff that happened in music on this day on April 9th. So let's hear what happened in music. Before I do, I'm going to drink a glass of water because I'm starting to, my throat's getting a bit of funny. But I am going to scroll down and let you read some of this. So, Bob Dylan reinvents himself with Nashville Skyline on this day in music, April 9th, 1969. Folk star Bob Dylan reinvented himself with the release of his ninth studio album, Nashville Skyline. The album was a sonic and stylistic pivot from his earlier work and found Dylan immersing himself into country music. As long as it's not electric. Even his singing voice was unrecognizable, as the artist delivered songs like Lay Lady Lay and Tonight I'll Be Staying Here With You in a deeper, softer croon. The album, which hit number 3 on the Billboard chart and became Dylan's 4th chart topper in the UK, also featured a duet with one of country's biggest names, Johnny Cash. In 2021, 50-year-old rapper DMX passed away following cardiac arrest. God rest his soul. Born Earl Simmons, he became a hip-hop MC in 1984 and signed with Def Jam Records in 1996. His 1998 debut, It's Dark and Hot as Hell, marks the first of a record-breaking 5 multi-platinum albums that debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. He took his stage name from a DMX drum machine he used to practice his rhymes to, but later said it was an acronym for Dark Man X. So take it as you wish, either one. In 1983, David Bowie's Let's Dance became the shape-shifting artist for a single to top the charts on both sides of the Atlantic. The funky track, which was produced by Chick Nile Rodgers and featured guitarist Stevie Ray Vaughan, rebooted Bowie's career with a new generation of fans. In 2018, Lindsey Buckingham's sudden departure from Fleetwood Mac was announced by the band, who also stated that his place would be taken on an upcoming tour by Crowded House's Neil Finn and former Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers guitarist Mike Campbell. According to Buckingham, he was told by the band's manager that Stevie Nicks never wants to be on stage with you again. You ever seen the music video for The Chain? Watch it and you'll know what I'm talking about. In the year 2000, with filming in British R&B star Craig David, who was a month shy of his 19th birthday, becomes the youngest UK male solo artist to write and perform a #1 hit on the UK singles charts. 4 months later, he scored another chart topper with 7 Days. In 1988, 50-year-old singer David Prater of the famous soul duo Sam and Dave was killed in a car accident. Nicknamed the dynamic duo, the pair had a volatile relationship and split up several times. Their biggest hits, which they recorded for Stax Records in the 60s, include Soul Man and Hold On, I'm Coming. Take that out of context. In 1977, ABBA topped the Billboard Hot 100 for the first time with Dancing Queen. The song, which marks the Swedish quartet's 7th top 40 single in the US, hit #1 in the UK and a dozen other countries. And here are some birthdays that happened on April 9th in their respective years. We got Carl Perkins, whose birthday was in 1932. In 1946, Les Gray from Mud. From 61, Mark Kelly from Maryland. In 1977, Gerald Way from My Chemical Romance. Rachel Stevens from S Club 7 was born on this day in 1978. Albert Hammond Jr. from The Strokes was born in 1980. Jasmine Sullivan from 1987. Also from 1987, Jesse McCartney. And from 1999, Lil Nas X. So those are the things that happened on this day in music. And we are 37 minutes in, and I think now is the right time to get to the main event. That is part 2 of my ranking of all 40 WrestleManias. So what I'm going to do is give you just a little quick recap of what happened on part 1, episode 14 of this show. So let's do an updated, quick little ranking of my favorite WrestleManias ranked from worst to the best, starting from 40 to 21. And then we will get into some of the details of my top 20 favorite WrestleManias of all time. So here's the quick ranking here. At number 40 was WrestleMania 9. Number 39, WrestleMania 27. Number 38, WrestleMania 11. Number 37, WrestleMania 33. At number 36, WrestleMania 13. Number 35, WrestleMania 2. Number 34, WrestleMania 36. Number 33, WrestleMania 37. Number 32, WrestleMania 2000, also known as WrestleMania 16. Number 31 is WrestleMania 15. At number 30 is WrestleMania 35. At number 29 is WrestleMania 34. At number 28 is WrestleMania 32. Number 27, WrestleMania 17. At number 26, WrestleMania 25. At number 25 is WrestleMania 26. Funny how those two have reversed. I actually did not plan that, by the way. At number 24 is WrestleMania 20. At number 23 is WrestleMania 22. At number 22 is WrestleMania 4. And at number 21 is WrestleMania 29. So that is the quick ranking of my favorite WrestleManias from 40 to 21 as what happened from last week's episode. So what is my top 20 favorite WrestleManias of all time? Well, let's do this. Coming in at number 20 is WrestleMania 23. To me, this is a decent show that was built around the Battle of the Billionaires with, of course, Vince McMahon and Donald Trump, with Umaga being Vince's guy and Lashley being Trump's guy. You have Stone Cold as the special guest referee in this match. And this was a bit of fun. The match that's worth the watch with this show, if you really want to go back and watch one particular uh, match that stole this show, was the one involving Undertaker and Batista for the world title. And of course, you got Cena and Michaels that had a decent main event. However, there are a couple of blunders throughout this WrestleMania. There's the Great Khali versus Kane, which was not needed, and Melina versus Ashley were two complete duds. There's no way around it. And you had a match between the new breed of ECW against the old breed of ECW, where I think the new breed should have went over. I mean, the whole thing about putting young guys over is to put young guys over, and that's what they should have done. And Mr. Kennedy won Money in the Bank, and where the heck is he now exactly? Coming in at number 19 on this list, WrestleMania 18. And of course, the single greatest thing about WrestleMania 18 is, of course, the match with The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. This happened in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and the crowd, just the crowd alone, is fantastic. And of course, they had Chris Jericho and Triple H that had to main event and was a complete dud. It had to follow The Rock and Hogan, and it sucked. I mean, come on, really. The Rock and Hogan should have been the main event of that show. Yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing WrestleMania, but it's one I go back and have a little bit of fun with it. And believe it or not, WrestleMania 18 was actually the first WrestleMania I've ever watched in full. So that's a neat little detail for you right there. Coming in at number 18 on this list is WrestleMania 8. To me, this is a good show that could have been so much more. If we got Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair, who is the real world champion? But we didn't. And it sucks. It's a shame. It's a disappointment. But we got the next best thing, and that was Ric Flair versus Macho Man Randy Savage that ultimately stole the show, in my opinion. And while Hulk Hogan and Sid Justice had no business main eventing, it was a bit of an odd choice to go with. And somehow Skinner got to have a WrestleMania match. So let that sink in. Coming in at number 17 on this list, I'm surprised I don't have this higher, but it is what it is. WrestleMania 31. To me, this is a pretty good show, but with some missteps, and I'll get into that in just a bit. Now, what made WrestleMania 31 a pretty good show was the ladder match to kick off the show for the Intercontinental Championship between I actually don't know. I actually can't remember. Feel free to comment below if you could tell me who was in that Intercontinental Championship match. Also, of course, you got Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins. And that wicked spot with the RKO is absolutely spot on. It was the curb stomp to the RKO. Getting to see DX square off with the NWO, I thought was a real highlight in WrestleMania 31. And AJ Lee and Paige working well as a tag team was good. And of course, really the best thing about WrestleMania 31 is the main event between Roman and Brock Lesnar. But what happened close to the end of it is that we got Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank, and Michael Cole dubbed it the heist of the century, and it was the best way to go. Here are the missteps with WrestleMania 31, in my opinion, that were ultimately the big ones. There was no reason, and I mean no reason, for Triple H to beat Sting in Sting's WWE debut match. To me, all that was Vince not letting it go that WWE beat WCW. And similar situation goes with the John Cena beating Rusev for the U.S. title. To me, that wasn't necessary at all. And the Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt just didn't feel right with the aesthetics and Undertaker not having the WrestleMania streak anymore. Coming in at number 16 on this list is WrestleMania 28. To me, there are three standout matches in WrestleMania 28. You got Triple H versus The Undertaker. inside Hell in the Cell with Shawn Michaels as the ref, which was an outstanding match. Chris Jericho versus CM Punk for the WWE title, another really good match here. And to my opinion, The Rock versus John Cena once in a lifetime in the main event really didn't suck all that much. But the big blunders that came out of 28 were obviously Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. That only lasted a few seconds for the world title to kick off the show. Those two guys deserve better. The Intercontinental Championship match could have went longer than it did, and Team Teddy versus Team Johnny was just basic filler to fill time. Coming in at number 15 on this list is WrestleMania 5. WrestleMania 5, I thought, was a pretty good show. This show involved an all-star cast of superstars with the likes of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage main eventing the show. And to me, that was the best match on the card. And you got other notable matches I thought were really good. And they include Jake the Snake Roberts versus Andre the Giant. And of course, you got Rick Rude versus the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental title. And while Red Rooster and Bobby Heenan was filler comedy and was just that didn't need to be there. And somehow we got to witness Dino Bravo wrestle. And it's not the only time Dino Bravo wrestled at WrestleMania. I'll just leave it at that. But overall, WrestleMania 5 I thought was still a pretty damn good show. And we're starting to get into the good ones here. At number 14 on this list, this is one I might watch again if I haven't already as I'm recording this video. At number 14 is WrestleMania 24. This is probably one of the more underrated WrestleManias of the bunch, with a solid Money in the Bank ladder match to kick off the show, while Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, to me, really truly stole the show with the whole thing of Ric Flair, his career's on the line, and you get that moment where Shawn says to him, "I'm sorry, I love you," and he gives Flair the sweet chin music. It's a great swan song. It sucks that Ric Flair had to wrestle again in TNA, but it's still what a moment this was. And of course, we get Undertaker and Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. Had a pretty good main event to close out the show. The only blemishes with WrestleMania 24 are Batista versus Umaga for the Battle of the Brand Supremacy. That could have been a little bit so much more. But the biggest farce that ever happened at WrestleMania 24 is Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather. What a load of crap that was. I'm sorry, it was. But like I said, overall, WrestleMania 24, very underrated and also a really good show. Coming in at number 13 is one of the modern ones, WrestleMania 38. To me, this is one of the good ones of the modern time. Like I said, the most notable matches include Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title. That's the match you really go to check out for the show. And then you got Seth Rollins taking on WWE return of Cody Rhodes. And to me, the best thing about WrestleMania 38, and obviously when it comes to night one of WrestleMania 38, was the 19-year-long wait of the in-ring return of one Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Texas Rattlesnake, getting to wrestle, facing off with Kevin Owens. What a great match that was. And in part two, we got Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. Loads of fun. Very sports entertainish. And of course, Edge versus AJ Styles was the best thing about WrestleMania 38 Night 2. So WrestleMania 38, yeah, I remember that being one of the good ones as well. Coming in at number 12 on this list is WrestleMania 30. I know what you're thinking. I'll get to that. To me, this is like the yeah, but kind of WrestleMania. Yes, Daniel Bryan overcame the odds by first beating Triple H in one of the best opening matches at any WrestleMania, and also beating Randy Orton and Batista in the main event to become WWE champion. But here's the but here. Undertaker losing the streak was just absolutely horrendous. It was dumb and it was unnecessary. It was uncalled for. I don't know why they've done that. And same goes with John Cena beating Bray Wyatt. That should have been Bray Wyatt's time. That was dumb, I thought. However, with all that, to me, it's still a really good WrestleMania despite its major downfalls. It's one of those WrestleManias where the highs are really high and the lows are really low. Coming in at number 11 on this list, just shy of the top 10. And I'm surprised it's not in the top 10. It's a darn shame because to me, this is one of the all-time great WrestleManias. That's WrestleMania 6. And the first ever international WrestleMania, hailing from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And to me, the best thing about WrestleMania 6 is Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, winner take all. It's WWF Champion versus Intercontinental Champion. Warrior wins, becomes WWF Champion. That's the match to watch for this show. And it's a loaded card, but it has lots of stars in it from Dusty Rhodes, Jim Duggan, Ted DiBiase, Big Boss Man, Rick Rude, the Hart Foundation, Rowdy Piper. The list goes on and on and on and on. And from now on, with this list, with the top 10, it's nothing but positive. Absolutely nothing but positive. And probably with very little nitpicks. So let's get right into it. Kicking things off at number 10 of my favorite WrestleManias of all time is WrestleMania 12. And to me, the biggest three standout matches with WrestleMania 12 in order are my favorites. Rowdy Piper versus Goldust in the backyard barnyard in the backyard brawl. Undertaker versus Diesel for the world title, and Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart in the Iron Man match for the WWF title. The boyhood dream has come true for Shawn Michaels. Best thing about it was the overtime part. And we also get the WrestleMania debut of Stone Cold Steve Austin on this show as well. And just to put this out there, I know people are going to look at this as a negative, but I don't, because I think it was absolute genius on the part of Ultimate Warrior coming out and squashing Triple H. That's an absolute thing of beauty for me. Coming in at number 9 on this list is WrestleMania 39, Part 1 and 2. Really the best match in the main event of Part 1 was the match for the tag team titles. The Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And also followed by Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. And he also had Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul as well. For night 2, Roman versus Cody for the title. Obviously, really good way to close out the show. And of course, you got Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre for the Intercontinental title. And what a nice, brutal match that was. Yeah, so WrestleMania 39 all over. Both parts really, really good. I have really no complaints about it. Coming in at number 8 on this list is the very first WrestleMania, WrestleMania 1. And you really watch this show for how historical and how important this show is overall. You really do. And you got the main event with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Rowdy Piper and Paul Orndorff. This is the one match you really need to see just for this show. The rest of the matches, you can either take it or leave it, but this is the match you really go for WrestleMania 1, the very first one. Coming in at number 7 on this list is WrestleMania 21. To me, the three standout matches, really the best match on the show was Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. And then you got Undertaker versus Randy Orton, as well as the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match where Edge became the first Money in the Bank winner. And then, of course, you got that really good opening match with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. That was really, really good. Really, the only nitpicks and the negatives about this show are Big Show versus Aki Bono. That was a farce. As big as a farce as Big Show and Floyd Money Mayweather. And Trish Stratus versus Christy Hemme. But Trish Stratus really carried that match. But ultimately, this show was about passing the torch to both John Cena and Batista in their respective matches on the last two matches on the card. Coming in at number 6 on this list, an all-time great here, WrestleMania 7. The best thing about this, the retirement match between Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage, where you get that final visual of Miss Elizabeth coming back in and taking a sensational Sherry, or Scary Sherry. That was really, really awesome. And the main event was a solid match between Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, yeah, it had the controversy behind it, but you know what? Controversy is not necessarily a bad thing to me. This was a great thing. And it was also Undertaker's very first WrestleMania. And you really can't go wrong with WrestleMania 7. It's one of the all-time greats. Now we are getting into the final 5 on this list, the top 5. So what do I got at number 5? Well, that is WrestleMania 19. This is a WrestleMania where there's really not a lot of bad matches. Those last 3 matches on this show, you can argue, could be the main event, have the main event spot. You got Hulk Hogan versus Vince with that 20-year rich history. Stone Cold versus The Rock for the third and final time. And ultimately, what was the main event? Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title. You can make an argument for any of those matches that could have main evented the show, obviously. And the match between Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels, one of the best matches on this card. Fantastic. The only little nitpicks I have with WrestleMania 19 are the Undertaker's handicap match between Big Show and Albert, and the end result of the Triple H and Booker T match with the way that played out. Oh my God, that was brutal. But overall, WrestleMania 19, like I said, if you want to look at a WrestleMania that has great in-ring work, WrestleMania 19 is the show to watch. Coming in at number 4 on this list is the latest WrestleMania. That is WrestleMania 40. Yeah, I have WrestleMania 40 all the way up at number 4 here. I mean, obviously, this is the Avengers Endgame of the Avengers Infinity War from WrestleMania 39 here. We get the main event tag team match involving Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Rocket Roman in the Night 1 main event, which would tie into the main event of Night 2 of Roman versus Cody for the WWE title. And of course, you get the whole thing with everyone coming in, including The Undertaker as well. Other notable matches at WrestleMania 40 for both nights. Gunther versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Damian Priest cashing in his Money in the Bank against Drew McIntyre. Of course, Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton for the United States Championship. And of course, the Royal Rumble winner Bayley becoming the new women's champion, defeating Io Sky. That's why WrestleMania 40, I hold that in high regard. And that's why it's at number 4 on this list. Coming in at number 3 is WrestleMania 10. Not only did Bret Hart pull double duty, not only did Bret Hart pull double duty by wrestling both his brother Owen Hart and later on in the main event with Yokozuna, but also Yokozuna as well. Yokozuna also had a match with Lex Luger on the show. Really, when you think about WrestleMania 10, you think about 2 great matches here. The opening match, like I alluded to earlier, between Bret Hart and Owen Hart, and you can argue that's one of the best opening matches out of any show, period. And of course, the ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, who's the real Intercontinental Champion. What a great match that was. WrestleMania 10 overall, it's one of the best. That's why it's at number 3. Number 2 and number 1, to me, the top 2 WrestleManias are absolute game changers that set the tone for the future in their own respective way and in their own respective decade here. With that said, coming in and the runner-up position of number 2 on this list, WrestleMania 14. The best thing about WrestleMania 14 is obviously Stone Cold main eventing with Shawn Michaels with Mike Tyson. And you get the whole thing where Shawn Michaels, he's wrestling, but he has a bad back, but he can still perform in his own way. And of course, you get the enforcer counting the 1, 2, 3. Stone Cold becomes the new champion, alluding to the future. That was the Attitude Era in 1998. And of course, the ultimate great storytelling and wrestling match between Kane versus The Undertaker, the first time they ever wrestled. What a great match that was. And it's one of the WWE's best years creatively, and it kicked off here at WrestleMania. But there's only one WrestleMania that really stands the test of time. One WrestleMania that deserves the moniker of not only my favorite WrestleMania of all time, but the single best WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 3. And of course, when you think about WrestleMania 3, you think of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, the body slam heard around the world, Andre the Giant passing the torch to Hulk Hogan. Yeah, Andre's health wasn't great, but the moments still matter the most. And ultimately, they gave us that moment. It won a fantastic show. And of course, everyone else is going to talk about Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for the Intercontinental title. I mean, you got two great matches here. One filled with moments, and the other filled by great in-ring work here. Randy Savage versus Steamboat for the Intercontinental title is probably one of the first great in-ring working type of matches. And the biggest takeaway from this WrestleMania, like I said earlier, it is one that stands above the rest, and it's one that ultimately stands the only true test of time. And that is my ranking from 20 to 1, my favorite WrestleManias of all time. Now I'm going to, and that is episode 15 of the Rock Out Wild Show. I am your host, Just Mike, and I'm going to end this off with a quote. Dear friend, as you gaze into the unknown future, remember that it holds endless possibilities and opportunities just waiting for you to seize them. Embrace this moment of transition with hope and optimism, knowing that your past experiences have equipped you with the strength and resilience to navigate whatever comes your way. Look towards the future with excitement and curiosity, for each new day brings with it the potential for growth, joy, and fulfillment. Trust in the journey ahead, for it is filled with infinite chances for you to create the life you truly desire. Your best days are yet to come. And that is episode 15 of the Rock Out Wild Show. I am your host, Just Mike. And on a final note to all of you watching and listening to this around the world, wherever you are, get plenty of rest and always do your best.